examining report ID 2026.
All right, there we go. We got stuck for a second there. I do not know how that happened at all. I greatly do apologize for that. But let's get down to business, shall we? Can we? So it's Friday, everybody. 2 sitting congressmen, 2 just got fired by their own party's voters. The Fed just told you flat out they might raise rates. They might raise the rates and not cut them. And there's a new study, and by the way, I got a new mic, so I'm just making sure that I'm not too loud because it looked like I'm looking at the red here, and it looks like I'm very, very loud. Hopefully, I'm not shouting at you guys. Hopefully, yeah. Oh my God. Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna work with it. So as I was saying, the Feds flat out raised the rates. They didn't cut them. And there's a new study out about one supplement they might actually keep strong into your 70s. 3 stories, all with a "this affects your life" trend running through them. So I'm Marcus Hart. This is the Urban News Journal, and we are live. Let's get into it, folks. And before we get into it, I want to let you guys know that I greatly appreciate the comments that I'm seeing on the shorts, on the emails that I'm getting. It is truly amazing. And I really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me and being with me every Monday, Wednesday, and now Friday also. So let's start with a story most national coverage is underselling to all of us, because it's not just one race, it's a pattern. And patterns are what actually tell you where the country's heading. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment so we can break through the algorithms. This summer, sitting members of Congress have been losing primaries left and right to their own party. Isn't it? It's funny. And we're not talking about general elections either. We're talking about primaries. Their own voters. The people who already agree with them on almost everything looked at them and said, not you, homie. No, brother. Not you. Not anymore. So here's the, I can't get it out. Here's the rundown. The very specifics of the matter. That's what I'm trying to say. Because specifics matter more than the vibes. And we used to hear the words vibes all last year and parts of this year. It's all about the vibes. But the vibes ain't there no more. For example, in Kentucky's 4th, longtime Congressman Thomas Massey lost renomination outright. They said, we ain't having it. So in Texas 2nd, Dan Crenshaw, a name plenty of you might know, lost his primary too. Out of there. And out in Hawaii, incumbent Ed Case is getting a real run from a sitting state senator in a race nobody expected to be competitive this very early. We're talking about different states, different parties, in some cases, same underlying signal. Incumbency itself is not protecting anybody in this cycle this time around. There's about to be a lot of people getting their heads cut off. We're going to see the heads rolling, y'all. They're going to be rolling. Keep rolling. You know that song. Yeah, they're going to be gone. Out of here. And I don't blame the voters. We had enough of this. We had enough of it. I mean, even here in Wisconsin, I'm tired of seeing the same faces getting up and trying to speak on everybody, and they not even listening to what the voters want. Now, here's the part I actually want you to sit with, because this is where the why matters more than the what. Chew on that for a second. When voters start firing people from their own side, that's not really about any single policy vote. That's a base telling its own leadership, I don't feel represented. I don't feel heard. And I'm done being patient about it. I need my money and I need it now. In other words, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Yes, that's a different kind of anger than the usual left versus right fight. This is inward facing. And inward facing anger inside a party is usually the first sign of a bigger realignment coming. Not the last. This won't be the last. It may seem like the first. I'm pretty. This has happened before in history. History repeats itself. And I'll give you my honest read about it. And you can push back on me in the chat in a second. I think what we are all watching is a genuine trust deficit between everyday voters and the people who are supposed to represent them, regardless of party letter. People don't feel heard on cost of living, on how their community is changing, on whether anyone in Washington actually lives like they do. When that gap gets wide enough, and I mean an ocean, primaries start looking less like a formality and more like an eviction notice. I have gotten one in the past, and it's ugly, folks. It is ugly. Evictions are not fun. So let's open up the chat. I want to hear you guys. I want to know what you guys are seeing in your own state. I tell you one thing, I'm not seeing the same happening in my state either. Primaries look very different. And if this kind of breakdown, the pattern behind the headline, not just the headline, is very useful to you, that's exactly what this channel does 3 days a week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, is there a primary happening in your own state or district right now? I just early voted in ours. And do you see a pattern, in your own state where the incumbent is in real trouble? Tell me who and tell me why. I would like to know. You got plenty of time right here on live. You can drop that comment. I'll read it, or you can give it to me afterwards, etc., etc. All right. Let's move from politics to your very wallet, because this next one affects literally everybody watching. Everybody watching? Yes, everybody, brother. The Federal Reserve met this week, and the headline isn't what they eat; it's what almost happened. The Fed held interest rates steady, which is what most people expected anyways. But here's the part that should get your attention. 3 policymakers, all trio, on that committee actually voted for a hike. They wanted the rates to rise, baby, rise. Not a cut, a hike. Up the hill, not falling down, going up, baby, going up. Last month, that same vote was unanimous to hold. This month, a real split opened up. And that split is the Fed's own way of telling you inflation isn't as tame as the headlines want you to believe. And that's messed up, man, because legacy media, they keep doing it to us over and over and over again, feeding us this nonsense. Why are you lying? Why are they always lying to us? I don't understand it. Meanwhile, mortgage rates ticked up again this week, sitting up near 6.84% on a 30-year fix. What? 6.84. And here's the sentence that actually matters more than any single rate number. Inflation has technically improved on paper, but affordability has not improved for real people at all. We're talking about insurance premiums are still climbing. Housing costs are still eating a bigger share of every paycheck than they did in about 5 years ago. The gap is real. And the gap between the data says it even better. And your bank account says it's not. Okay? It's exactly where most Americans are living right now. We living in the gap. That's where most of us as Americans are living right now, in the gap. And we're not imagining this. We're not going to Lulu. It's very real. It's very real. Okay? Now, this is where I put my finance hat on for a second. Plainly, no jargon. If you're thinking about buying, refinancing, or making a big financial move in the next few months, I'm here to tell you, this is not the environment to assume rates are about to drop and bail you out. No, 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 no. The Fed just told you 3 of their own people want to go in the other direction. So what do we have to do with all that information? What do we have to do? We have to plan around reality, not around hope. We can't live off the hope. Don't take that hope dope. Don't take it, man. And I know I'm laughing because, look, we gotta laugh this stuff off. I mean, we gotta take serious note at it and really look at it. Okay? But this is the kind of plain English breakdown stuff that actually touches your life. It touches your money, politics, health, that I all do here every stream. And I want to invite you, if that's your speed, follow along at the Urban News Journal everywhere, not just here. Okay? And I want to know, got a question for you guys. Okay? Is the cost of living squeeze hitting your household harder this year than last year? I know it's hurting mine. I ain't got it like that no more, folks. You can't come ask Daddy Marcus for anything. So, where are you feeling it the most? Is it the housing? Is it the groceries? Is it insurance? Take a few live reactions, okay? I want some live reactions. If you don't feel like going live and putting it in the section right now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to, just drop it afterwards. Or send me an email, press@marcus-hart.com. That's press@marcus- Let me get some water real quick. It was very humid today at the time of this recording, live stream. So every story today has to be a fight. Here's one that's very useful. New study is getting some real attention this week on daily multivitamins and aging. Don't we like our supplements? The findings have shown that older adults who take a daily multivitamin consistently over a multi-year period show meaningfully better functional strength and stamina for everyday activities compared to those who didn't. And I don't know if that was Hulk Hogan. Yes, it was. He said, take your vitamins. You see, yeah, and that carried along with me because I believe firmly in, the multivitamin. I take it every day. I try not to skip a day. So we are talking the difference between struggling to carry groceries up the stairs, the ones that are not as affordable as they used to be, and just not struggling. That's a real thing. That is a real thing. The difference in this study wasn't dramatic medicine. It was a daily multivitamin taken consistently over years. And consistency, folks, beat intensity. And here's what I want to spend real time on. Instead of just rushing past it. We can rush past this, but let's spend a little bit of time. You see, we talk constantly on this show about the big systemic stuff. The economy, the political fights, the wars. Those things matter. But none of us can control the Fed's next vote or a primary outcome 3 states away. What you can control is what you put in your body every single morning. I want you to think about that. Think about that. and I'm skipping ahead. Okay. Think about it. So this study is a reminder that the boring, unglamorous, consistent habit, not the dramatic intervention, is usually what actually changes your next decade. So I'll say the obvious caveat because I always will. I'm not a doctor, folks, and this isn't medical advice. And this is from my experience personally, because I practice what I preach when it comes to taking care of your body. And a lot of other stuff too. So talk to your own physician about what's right for you specifically. But the broader point stands on its own. Small, consistent, boring habits outperform big, dramatic ones almost every single time. Every single time. And it matters in your health. And honestly, it matters in most of your life. If you want more of this, real stories, real data, explained straight, no fear mongering at all, subscribe to the Urban News Journal. We are live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't miss a beat. Now, I want to ask you guys another question. What's one boring, unglamorous habit that actually made a real difference in your life? Now, for me personally, like I said, I do not skip on multivitamins. They are a good supplement. It's a supplement that, I can tell a difference with. Okay. That and vitamin D. I really love vitamin D, And again, it's so routine. Yeah, it feels a bit boring, but it's worth it. It got long-term benefits, to it. So what I want to do, I want to bring all these three together that we talked about because they actually connect more than you would actually think, right? Okay, they got to. All right, I'm headed somewhere with this stuff. I'm about to park this thing. Okay, I'm about to park the big Cadillac. Let's roll it. Here's the thread that's underneath everything we covered today. Voters firing their own incumbents. The Fed admitting the inflation fight isn't over. A health study proving that consistency beats intensity. Different topics, but the same lesson. Honestly, people are done accepting the comfortable version of the story and they want the real one. Rather that's from their government, their bank account, or their own body. People are done accepting the comfortable version of the story and they want the real one. And again, I will yell this out loud. It don't matter if it's from their government, from their bank accounts, or their own body. I had to say that twice so that you understand. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Huh? Yeah, we have a good time on Fridays. We get a little bit more silly, because the weekend's here, get to sleep in, but I never sleep in on Saturdays. I have a hard time sleeping in. But yeah, we gotta have fun, man. We only live one life. And speaking of that life, I tell you where I land on all of this, right? Personally, ready for it? You cannot outvote every bad incumbent. You can't outpredict every Fed meeting or out hustle every economic headwind coming your way. But what you can do, folks, is exactly what that health study proved that works. And that is simple. It's about showing up consistently, doing the unglamorous right thing daily, and trust that it will compound. Okay? That's true financially. That's true politically. In terms of just staying informed and engaged instead of checked out. And it's true spiritually too. It is. It counts. Counts for a lot. Now you may ask, what is consistent for me? My faith is what keeps that consistency honest for me. Especially on weeks where the headlines feel heavy in three different directions at once, like they did today. I don't say that to preach at you at all. I'm not trying to preach. I say it because it's the actual engine behind why I keep showing up here live 3 days a week. Even if it's one person in the live stream, it don't matter. I keep doing it, you know, because I don't want to burn out on the news cycle like a lot of people have. Okay? So whatever your version of that steady center is, protect it this week. Because believe it or not, you will need to. You will. And speaking of showing up for real conversations, if this is your first time catching me live, I want to point you somewhere else too. My main show, the Transform You Live show, is built entirely around sitting down with real guests and pulling out their actual story. Not the polished version, the true one. It's the single best performing content that I make, on video and on audio both. Because people can tell the difference between a guest telling you something real and a host just talking at you. So go find that one too. Go watch one of those guest conversations. You'll see what I mean. I have some amazing guests. Man, down to earth. And these people are doing amazing things on top of that. So before you go, I got another big ask. Subscribe to the Urban News Journal if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X at the Urban News Journal. And if one of today's 3 stories actually gave you something worth repeating, repeat it to somebody today. That's genuinely how a show like this grows. Okay? And I want to thank you guys for spending this hour with me. I'm Marcus Hart. This has been the Urban News Journey. This has been the Urban News Journal. Sometimes I gotta go back. So we are live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I will see you next time. Until then, take care of yourselves out there. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you back on Monday.